there's more sellers and buyers everywhere across the country for the first time in a decade. So it's a legitimate data buyer's market. So yeah, get your dry powder. Where can you get money from? But don't put the cart before the horse. Don't be looking how to scale. How am I going to buy 10 properties this year? If you don't even know your market, if you don't even know what a good deal is, if you don't have your team in place.
Alrighty, folks, we heard it here first from Redfin. Redfin tells us quite clearly that most of the country, not all, but most of the country is in a buyer's market, with some cities like Austin and cities inside Florida, deep inside a buyer's market. What the heck should you be doing in a buyer's market? Should you be stepping back and waiting for prices to fall? Should you be waiting on the sideline for some bell to ring? Or should you be taking an opportunity? And if you are lucky enough to be in the game, what should you be doing? Should you be looking to scale, grow, refi? What the heck should you be doing? I'm going to talk with Casey from Brick by Brick Wealth and see what she's doing in a buyer's market. How you doing, Casey?
I'm doing good, Michael. I hope you had fun on your vacation.
First off, hold on.
Also, trip.
Thank you. I don't take vacations. What the heck do I need a vacation from?
Trips. Sorry,
I take trips. Come on,
get
it right.
I do that. I knew that one. And my parents came to visit from Mexico, so it was perfect timing. So got to hang out.
There you go. Awesome.
But anyways, I have been getting, this question a lot. Now's the time to buy. Should I wait? Every time I make a YouTube video, a lot of the because my opinion is now's the time. Like, we don't know when the bottom is. So get out there, start making offers, relearn your market if you've been sitting on the sidelines, and just start making those offers. Take advantage. You don't know when it's the bottom until the bottom is over. So you can get a good deal today. Great. Maybe you'll get a better deal in September. But the bottom line is, if you're not out there making offers and getting any deals, you're going to be the one saying, oh, I missed it, when it's on the way back up.
Yeah, I think one of the things that people need to understand about buyer's market, and I can say this because I have almost 25 years of doing this, they don't come around very often. We are predominantly in a more balanced market with, over the last decade or so, a seller's market in most of the country, certainly the last 5 years. And those are no fun. A buyer's market is fun for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, the media and the doomers come out and scare everybody. Because again, the part of being in a buyer's market is not only do you have more sellers, but you have buyers actually disappearing. I can tell you, as somebody who bought properties from 2010 or 2009 all the way to like 2015, every year that the prices went down, I had less and less competition, which makes no logical sense. So again, as the narrative spins up, you're going to have more and more people just go, I'm not going to catch a falling knife. Oh, it's going to fall 10%, whatever it is. And what I tell people is, okay, if you really believe, that your market's going to fall 10%, write your offers 15, 20% below asking. Just buy with that intuition, and then buy now, because the last thing you want to do is watch it go down, 5%, think it's going to go down 10, boom, bang, the Fed cuts rates and buyers fly off the sidelines and you missed it again. Yeah. If you're going to get a motivated seller to take your disrespectful offer, which could be 15, 20, I'm writing offers 30% below list price. They're not going to do that if the market turns, right? You're going to miss your opportunity again, right?
Yeah, I think sellers some of them are coming around, but most people don't watch mortgage news. They don't pay attention to what's happening in the housing market. Most people just don't. They go, oh, look, my neighbor's for sale signs in the yard. I wonder what it's worth. They go, oh, wow, they're going to get that. Maybe I'll sell. People don't pay attention as much as you do. And I pay attention to what you're doing for the most part. I'm not huge on the news every day of my life, and I'm still seeing sellers that are overinflating their prices. They are not back down to reality. So, Michael, I've been looking for a lake house forever. And even since, COVID times.
Oh, yeah.
And, the problem is there haven't been any, lakefront properties they're not everywhere, right? There's only a lake and there's only so much property on the lake. So there haven't been a lot of properties available for sale on the lake over the past 5 years, even though we've gone and looked and made offers. We're seeing more properties. I'm seeing more properties come on the lake, even in the higher, because I'm always looking to move to, even in the higher price range. More properties are coming on the market just since probably March. more properties have been coming on, but they're not really selling. Now, the people that are listing at today's prices, those ones are selling. The people that are listing with last year and the year before's prices, they're still sitting because the buyer has been looking at the market. If you're in the market to buy real estate and you've been sitting on the sidelines, you are watching the news about the real estate market. You are paying more attention to what home prices are. You've got your phone listings on your realtor.com and you look every day, even for fun, what's selling, what's coming on the market. Oh, look, price drop, price drop. So if you're a seller and you're listing prices accurately, your homes will sell. But if you're still thinking of 2023 prices, it's not happening. And we made an offer last week on a lake house. They were asking 729. There's two of them. The one we made an offer on, they were asking $699. And to me, I've been looking at this market for 5 years. It was too much. And in my opinion, it's worth $605. We were there for 2 days looking at properties. The second day, they dropped their price to $659. Well, we were already writing up our offer for $605. They were mortified and insulted at our offer for $605. And I'm like, we just dropped it, $40,000 or whatever. And I said, that's great what you dropped it. It wasn't worth $699 and it's still not worth $659. So people have to come down to reality on what the housing market is looking like. And if they want to actually sell their property, they've got to list it right for today's prices.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in that I would tell people. And I love that strategy of knowing your market, writing a 605 on a property you thought was listed at 699. That's exactly what you should be doing. And, in my experience, you're never going to get the first yes, right? Because if you got 605 on a 699, you didn't write a low enough offer, frankly. Right. But the money is in the follow-up. It would not shock because this seller has three options. They are either A, going to take it off the market. Right. They don't need to sell. They want to sell. So those take it off the market. B, they will sell it to somebody else. Or C, they will sell it to you at 605. And your job is just to keep raising your hand every 7 to 10 days and go, I'm still here. I'm still here. In fact, I'm a big prick. So what I would do on the next offer is I'd write it at $599.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not
so
bad.
I would just say, okay, it's still there. Here you go. $599, $597, and then if they ever come back at 605.
I think what some agents are doing too is they're doing a disservice being a real estate agent. A lot of them are. And I like my real estate agent, enough, but she a lot of times thinks, oh, well, it's worth what they're asking. It's worth what they're asking. It's like, it's not, it's just not. And
buyers make the deal. Buyers make the deal.
It's only worth what the buyer's willing to pay. That's what it's worth. It doesn't matter what the seller wants. And so I always look at the price when I put in my price range, but I'm not looking at, I don't calculate what I'm going to pay based on what the seller wants. I say, what are the comps of solds? My agent sends me active listings. They go, oh, you're going to have to send me some solds, and I don't want to see solds in 2022 or 2023. I realize it's lakefront, but people aren't getting 30% appreciation on their homes this year. It's just not happening. Now, what the seller did. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to tell you, I'm tracking a property in Vegas that's listed at $399. It's a fair price. It's probably, if I had to be honest, it's probably worth $389, but it's not bad. But here's the deal. I'm trying to be a buy and hold landlord. So my offer only makes sense and it's only a great yield at $300.
Yep.
So again, I'm waiting for this to be on the market 75 days because I don't want to, I'm not going to put it out there until it's really expired. But I'm going to write the offer up probably next week, if not the following week. It's at $300,000 cash, 10-day close, and see if they want to sell. They're probably going to be offended, just like yours, and tell me to F off. But again, at the end of the day, I know they're either A, going to take it off the market, which is fine. B, find somebody else that'll pay more than me. Or C, sell it to me. I don't need that house. I am lucky enough to be a buyer who wants one quality, great deal. And my numbers only work at 300. Now, they don't have to take it. They probably won't, but I'm willing to write that offer at 300, follow up every 10 days thereafter. And I know, because I've done this before, I'm going to have to write 50, 60, 70 of these over the next 90 days. But eventually, some seller's going to be like, I need to sell. and he's the only guy. I mean, Vegas, it's 120 degrees in August. He's the only guy writing offers. I got to get to Tennessee where my kids are. And they're going to go, okay, I'll take it.
The sellers, though, they're so stubborn, Michael, because they'll let properties sit for a year, $500,000 or $600,000 property, and they'll drop it 20 grand in a year. I'm like, what are you doing? 20 grand. Yeah. So this lake house that we're interested in, and we would make it our own lake house and Airbnb it, which I don't really want to do, but as the investor, I can't not do it. There's one literally 3 doors down, new construction. Right? I don't know if it was a vacant lot or they mowed over the other one, but brand new build with a dock and everything. They were asking, now they've dropped it down from $850, but it has been on the market over 400 days. Wow. And I know they've had price drops. And when that new construction home dropped their price the day we were there, because we looked at both houses, they dropped theirs from $729 to $699. So then an hour later, the one that we liked, the older one, dropped theirs. Now, I know that the new construction home would probably sell to me, and it's probably the better investment as far as wear and tear. They didn't do some things with it that they should have. The views aren't there, the windows aren't there, so that's a big part of the allure of lake homes, and they didn't hit the mark on that front. But what the listing agent did for the house we like is all they did, I can tell, is they just looked at what the neighbor's home price was because it was new and said, well, we should probably just list it a little bit less than the new one. And that one's been sitting for over a year. Like neither of you guys are on par with home prices. It's insane.
So again, what I would do, what I would do in a situation is I would write offers up on both houses roughly at the same price and tell them in the offer, I'm writing offers on multiple properties. The first one to say yes, we'll take. Again, the whole idea that in a buyer's market is the buyers have the power. Buyers make the deal. And you never know. I mean, that new house constructed, you never know the story. Maybe they have a construction loan that's still on, variable financing. They're getting eaten alive. Maybe they built this as a house for them to enjoy, and then one of the spouses died and they don't want to go back there. There's all kinds of stories. Yeah. And I might write the 605 on both of them and see which one takes. If the new one takes 605, then great. I'll put in new windows and fix that problem, right?
Yeah, it is brand new. It's never been lived in. I know the people bought it to sell it as for an Airbnb.
There's a story there. I would seriously write 605 on both and see what happens.
Yeah. I think the new one's worth less just because it has a smaller living room. It only has a sliding glass door looking out from the living room. It's stupid. The other one has windows all across, several hundred feet. It's like, well, I'd rather take the older one and put money into it, than the new one, even though it's brand new. It's just,
got it.
Not as appealing. So to me, the new one's worth less, and that it's smaller too, but it's worth less in that aspect.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what other people should do. Again, a buyer's market. Sometimes, like if you're in the game, maybe you started a couple of years ago, you have some equity. What do you think if somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, should I go do a cash out refi or put a second equity line?" Should people try to be raising dry powder today? What do you think?
I would say that they should get some together. Yeah. I would say you don't know what deals you're going to come across. And this is the first time we've had I know a year or so ago, we've talked about, maybe it was more recent than that, a buyer's market, but it was a really short window. And I was like, it didn't really last very long. But this is it. All across the news, sellers are out, there's more sellers than buyers everywhere across the country for the first time in a decade. So it's a legitimate data buyer's market. So get your dry powder. Where can you get money from? But don't put the cart before the horse. Don't be looking how to scale. How am I going to buy 10 properties this year? If you don't even know your market, if you don't even know what a good deal is, if you don't have your team in place, have your realtor already looking for you. Who's going to be your property manager? Start looking at rents, filling out your spreadsheet. Know what makes a good deal in your zip codes and your submarkets. And while you're doing that, say, okay, well, where can I get money from? Can I get an equity line of credit on my primary residence? Are there any properties on my own that I could do, any rentals you could do a cash out refi on if you wanted? There's a lot of ways to get money for properties. And I think that, see where you can get money, even if it's, looking for seller financing deals if you don't have funds, or even finding some private money, a partner to work with, someone to work with. Oh my God, I did a video a few weeks ago and actually did really well. But it's really good. One of my top videos got like 60,000 views. I was so proud. But I know, but I think I pumped up private money lending too much. Because everyone's like, what app do I go to for private money lending? What platform? I'm like, private lending is not really a platform or an app. It's a person, it's a friend, a family member, a next door neighbor that has cash and doesn't, understands the power of investing in real estate, but is scared to do it, doesn't have any experience, but would love some, some short-term returns on that. So talk to your friends and family members about real estate and say, hey, if anyone has 50 to 100K, I've got, if you are the one that has experience, you have a few rentals or properties or experiences under your belt, say now is the best time. I could get you double-digit returns backed by real estate in 6 months. Are you interested in that? Now's the time. But before you go looking to scale, you really should know your market. Get ready.
No, it all starts with knowing the market. And I tell people, like this morning on the Daily Financial News, we talked about a Brandon Turner post on Twitter. It went something like this. Hey, I'm 23 years old. I got 45 grand. I want to buy out of state. What do I do? And I'm like, dude, you're gambling, right? Until you know your market, you have a buy box. You can answer one question, what an average deal is. Hide that money, right? You have no money. You have no money until you know what a good deal is. And especially if you're going to borrow private money from friends and family. If you don't know what a great deal is, don't waste your time. You're just gambling. You did bring up seller financing. I think one of the things people need to realize about a buyer's market is seller financing really becomes an option, right? If you have a seller who's selling a property and they have equity, you can pay more. You frankly could pay more if they're willing to take a second, willing to carry the whole thing. It's just a process. I've done, millions of dollars in seller financing, usually in a buyer's market, right? Because in a seller's market, they just get their price and move on. But I have, God, let me think, 25% of our portfolio are on seller financing notes. All of them bought during buyer's market, and many of them with rates below 5%, with a couple at 0. It's because you can negotiate. So seller financing becomes more probable and possible in a buyer's market. So great advice.
Yeah, I love that. And I think about that too. If, it brings up a point like, ooh, I'm always wanting my next dream home. And there are the $1 million homes. They're sitting on the market. They're sitting there. They're not moving. They're, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 price drops that I'm seeing across the country in a lot of markets, because there's a lot of places I would live. And it's like, that's true. Now is the time where seller financing could really make a play, because there's a lot of these older people that have lived in these homes for a long time, probably put tons of money down when they bought them in the first place. They're ready to downsize. First of all, they don't want to take that huge equity gain to pay capital gains tax on if they've already moved out. So they may enjoy a seller financing offer with a lower interest rate and get what they want for it. Because people have these numbers in their mind. Oh, I got to get X for my house. I got to get X for my house. And it's stupid. But you can give them X for their house in return for a lower interest rate.
No, absolutely.
And that makes it worth it, versus 7%.
Yeah, I've told people plenty of times about this real life example. There was a guy that wanted to sell me at the time a 100K house for 120. And I did what I always do. I followed up innocently. And then I finally made a comment after like 6 or 9 months. I'm like, I'll pay 120, but you've got to give me seller carry, and you got to carry the 100K note, because I was going to put 20K down at 0% interest. And he said yes. He was only fixated on the 120. That's all he wanted, right? And I'm convinced this guy went around and told all his buddies on the golf course how he screwed this investor, how he sold a 100K house for 120. But he always forgets to say, I gave him $100 grand at 0% interest. I guarantee you he doesn't say that part. But hey, again, you never know unless you ask. I think seller financing is a big deal in a buyer's market.
I love it. Yeah, I think it's a good strategy. Absolutely. That's a good one. I'm glad we talked about it. I hope people watch to the end. That was a good tip.
There you go. Well, Casey, you do a lot of great stuff on YouTube and Instagram. Where can people find you, and go find this great video at 60,000 views?
Yeah, no, I was so excited. It was like 3 weeks ago. So you can find me and my awesome video on YouTube. So Brick by Brick Wealth. You can see me on Instagram, daily content, Brick by Brick Wealth. And if you're interested in getting coaching and learning more about what I'm doing, you can check me out on my website, brickbybrickwealth.com. So easy.
There you go. Thank you.